Chapter 1: Time Travel. Dongfeng felt very depressed, especially after he first entered this Japanese-owned company. He never had a good night's sleep. In the office and in the workshop, he often heard the annoying Begala. You may find it strange that you are all too familiar with the Beijialu. This is a perverted nation that spreads its ugliness to China, Asia, and the world. Unexpectedly, today in the 21st century, in the land where it is said that the Chinese people stand up, the harsh Beijialu will be heard again. Don't be surprised. Dongfeng is responsible for quality in a Japanese-owned company. Before joining, some friends advised him not to join a Japanese-owned factory. If the Japanese were beasts 70 years ago, then these civilized Japanese people who came to China in the 21st century have not yet fully evolved and are just half-human beasts. Otherwise, how could there be a collective massacre in Zhuhai or a collective open day in Tokyo? It is said that 500 Japanese dog couples gathered together to trade collectively in a square. Or how could they compete with China indiscriminately for Diaoyu Islands and oil and gas fields in the East China Sea? Hearing this, Dongfeng often laughs it off. For us part-time workers, just find a good company and be able to pay your wages on time every month. Leave the rest alone. But just a few days after entering this Japanese-owned factory, Dongfeng felt uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. He was so angry that he couldn't work at all. The Japanese quality director Suzuki Dairo sitting in the back is in his 60s and has just been transferred from the Japanese headquarters. He is a pervert. He held quality awareness meetings for everyone every day. If he didn't meet the requirements even a little bit, he would get angry and lecture everyone as if he were lecturing his sons. Sometimes, Beijialu would often come out of his mouth. Hearing this, Dongfeng often suppressed the anger in his heart. No matter where you work, you are not scolded. Just bear with it, and you'll get used to it slowly. Everyone is left to their own devices. Anyway, this annoying director has not scolded him yet. A few days pass like this. In order to avoid seeing that stinky face every day, Dongfeng ran into the workshop as soon as Suzuki Dairo came to the back office. In this way, his ears were protected from noise pollution. I don't know why, but I was conducting on-site research today. Suddenly, there was a burst of chaos in front of me, and then there was a burst of noise among the employees. The coworkers rushed around and shouted, "The devils are beating people! Come on! The devils are beating people!" I feel very surprised. Although the quality of the Japanese management personnel is particularly poor, the on-site environment of the Japanese-owned factory is still good. How could there be such a chaotic situation? How can a gentleman hit someone if he doesn't use his words? Out of curiosity, and also to relax the nerves that had been stressed by Suzuki Dairo these days, Dongfeng put down his work and surrounded him with his co-workers. To people's surprise, the one who hit him was actually quality director Suzuki Dairo, who was standing aside with arrogance and disdain on his face. The female worker who was beaten covered the swollen half of her face and cried nonstop like Xianglin's wife. "Director, I did something wrong. Why did you hit me? I did something wrong. Why did you hit me?" Dongfeng knew this female worker well. Her name was Ping. She was from Hubei, and she was very docile. When Dongfeng was investigating problems on site a few days ago, she had been very friendly and assisted Dongfeng. Unexpectedly, such a docile girl would be beaten by Suzuki like this, and the beating was so hard that the left side of her face was swollen. Although the workers who were surrounded by Suzuki were also panicking at this time, the unique pride of the Japanese was clearly revealed, and he shouted to everyone, "Go back to work quickly. What are you doing here? Go back to work quickly. Don't you even want to work?" Unexpectedly, Suzuki would be so domineering after beating a weak woman. Everyone was very angry and kept making noises. Not only did they not disperse, but the circle became wider and wider. Dongfeng kept an eye on it. He was not afraid of the county magistrate, but was afraid of taking control. Suzuki was his immediate boss. If he encouraged his coworkers to go against him, he would be afraid of wearing small shoes in the future and be ready to leave immediately. When he was turning around, Suzuki suddenly stopped Dongfeng. "Young, you came just in time. Let these workers return to their jobs immediately. There was thunder on the ground, and everyone followed Suzuki's gaze and discovered that Dongfang, who was hiding in the dark, felt very hot. There was no other way. Suzuki was his immediate boss, so he had to bite the bullet. In everyone's disdainful eyes, Dongfang came to Suzuki. He first shook Aping's hand, then touched his half-swollen face and said, "Aping, does it hurt? I'll take you to the infirmary to apply some medicine to avoid inflammation or something." A Ping raised her round face full of tears, twisted her face, and said, "Yang Sheng, it hurts. It hurts very much. What did I do wrong that the director hit me like this?" When the workers next to him heard this, they also started shouting, "Traitor, don't just wipe Dalong's, but like this. What did Aping do wrong? Why did Dalong beat such a weak woman?" Hearing that someone called him a traitor in public, Dongfang became a little angry, but he still tried to restrain himself and said to everyone, "Dear fellow workers, believe in our director, believe in the company, believe in our government. This matter will definitely be resolved satisfactorily. However, the resolution of the problem requires slow communication between the parties involved. How can we solve the problem when everyone is gathered here?" Unexpectedly, just such a sentence would be exposed by everyone in public. Some people said that you have only been here a few days. What do you know? Some people said that you, the boy, were originally working for Suzuki and were a mess, which only made the workers more excited. When the situation became uncontrollable, Dongfang had no choice but to ask Suzuki, "Director, what did a Ping do wrong?" One of Suzuki's own subordinates actually questioned himself. At that time, he said angrily, "This little girl is not certified for her work." When the director was inspecting the workshop, she secretly smiled at me. In this way, my conscience is very bad. How can I not teach her a lesson? Upon hearing that the whole incident was so unbelievable, Dongfang Daki said, "Director, you beat a Ping just because she secretly smiled at you?" Suzuki hesitated for a moment and said, "It's absolutely true. He's not serious about his work. Shouldn't he be beaten and scolded? Yang, you're also a quality worker. Do you know that many things end up causing customer complaints because employees are not careful? This is the meaning of quality that I have instilled in you these days." Before Dongfang could speak, Aping replied with a sad face, "I am born with a smile to welcome people. Do you want me to cry?" Suzuki raised his head and replied arrogantly, "You are not serious at work and have a bad conscience. This director has the right to beat you." This sentence simply stirred up a hornet's nest, and everyone cursed. "Damn it, DeLang is really weird. Instead of me greeting you with a smile, are you going to use guns and cannons to drive away these wolves like we did 70 years ago?" Suzuki was furious and yelled at Dongfang, "Yang, write down the names of these scolding Chinese people and notify personnel to deal with them then." When everyone heard this, they immediately turned their anger on Dongfang and said one after another, "You traitor, who is afraid of whom? As long as you dare to remember, I will treat you well." Unexpectedly, after a few days of forbearance, Suzuki actually thought that he was completely obeying him. He immediately suppressed the anger in his heart and said to Suzuki in a neither humble nor condescending manner, "Director Suzuki, a Ping has always been a smiling face to others. This is a natural thing. How can you beat her because of this? Director Suzuki, this matter is your fault. You should give a Ping justice." Bago Yalu, Suzuki was furious and shouted at Dongfang, "Yang, you are my employee. How can you ask an outsider to ask me to apologize to this despicable female worker? You are simply crazy." He had been suppressing this hateful word for a long time, and when he once again heard himself being scolded by Bei Jialu in public, Dongfang Huohu said, "I am your subordinate, yes, but I am also a Chinese. If you are not wrong, I can defend you. But you beat Aping for no reason. How can I defend you?" Unexpectedly, his subordinates would actually defeat him in public. Suzuki was furious. He immediately took out his wallet, took out a wad of money, sprinkled it in front of a Ping, and said, "If you want justice, this director will give you justice today. It's fair to take so much money. The Chinese are paupers. When she saw the dozens of $100 bills in front of her, Aping was quite moved. When she was about to bend down to pick them up, she was stopped by the workers. After some negotiation, the workers insisted that Suzuki Dalong pick up the banknotes on the floor. Suzuki kissed Dongfang hard, as if asking Dongfang to help him pick up the banknotes, but when he turned his head to the side, he finally, under the coercion of his co-workers, pulled out another stack of banknotes and handed it to Aping himself. Hearing bursts of laughter around him, Dongfang felt relieved and quietly left. He quietly ran to the Human Resources Department and got a resignation letter. I thought I would be able to get away easily like this, but I didn't know that people are not as good as God. He actually hated Jie Chuan because he didn't become a traitor. Suzuki glared at Dongfang fiercely, took the resignation letter, and after a while, asked Dongfang to wait in the conference room on the 5th floor of the company. Sitting in the conference room uneasily, the door suddenly burst open, and Suzuki and several Japanese managers rushed in. They came to the lonely Dongfang and tried to teach Dongfang a lesson as if they were trying to eat people. Dongfang was also angry and immediately responded with a few words. When they got excited, they even pointed at each other's noses. These Japanese people were so angry that if they committed the following offenses, it was okay. After a phone call, several security guards came immediately and even escorted Dongfang and drove him out of the company. Dongfang felt a sense of solemnity in his heart. There is no place for me to stay here, but there is a place for me to stay. I have no regrets in leaving go Japan's company so tragically. He immediately held his head high and walked to the company headquarters with a swagger. At the top of the stairs, Suzuki, who had not yet finished his cruelty, felt frustrated and despicably kicked Dongfang's butt from behind. He immediately lost his balance and rolled down the stairs, hitting his head on the wall, and fainted immediately. The Japanese management staff didn't take it seriously. This cunning Chinese man was playing tricks again. They immediately asked 2 security guards to guard him and walked away. Or maybe he waited too long. A security guard pulled Dongfang up with his hands and suddenly felt something was wrong. His hands were full of blood. Misfortunes never come singly. Dongfang rolled down the stairs, and his temple hit the emergency exit sign. The blood flow continued, and he had already fainted. Due to excessive blood loss, Dongfang died when he was sent to the hospital and passed away sadly. What happened next was even more unbelievable. After hearing that Dongfang was dead, the company was bent on treating the matter as an accidental casualty. It spent some money to find some doctors and police who pretended to be rich first to collect some fake evidence, and then sent some money to the village committee, the town government, and the investigators. In this way, Dongfang accidentally fell down the ladder and died. After receiving the news of Dongfang's unexpected death, his parents, who had never seen the world, cried like tears and came all the way from Sichuan. How could the honest farmers of Badagio be the opponents of these people? From front to back, all the evidence shows that Dongfang died accidentally. The president of the Shenzhen Japanese-owned association also said quite proudly, the current number of work-related fatalities in China is 2 per 100,000 people. We deeply regret that Yang is just one of those 100,000 people. The safety of our Japanese-owned factories is guaranteed, and its death cases are far lower than the national average. Unexpectedly, this kind of bastard remarks would be shouted down by some so-called elite professors. After many petitions, the unjust case of his son's death could not be uncovered, so the old father had no choice but to take the 20,000 yuan compensation from Suzuki on behalf of the company. According to Shenzhen city compensation standards, the national compensation standard for things like Dongfang's is 50,000 yuan. Out of a humanitarian spirit, the company paid for the expenses of Dongfang's parents in Shenzhen for more than 30 days for free. The chairman personally donated 5,000 yuan as Dongfang's funeral expenses. Seeing these sinful faces, what could the old father say? He could only hold the ashes of his beloved son in pain and embark on the journey home sadly. This is a true story. You may also say that the girl who was beaten and the co-workers should come forward and tell the truth. Alas, The person who said this was very naive to begin with. After that incident, the workers who caused the trouble were all fired that day and eventually disappeared. And the beaten Ping, after being promoted to foreman, was the first to jump out and testify that Dongfeng died in an accident. This is reality, a true portrayal of migrant workers. Many migrant workers were beaten for no reason, and many migrant workers were unjustly killed. However, for the sake of ridiculous harmony and social stability, the blood of poor people like us is used to confirm the so-called prosperous age. Chapter 2, Sichuan Army Officer School. Yang Xing was blown away. Luo Zizhou teased the students around him as soon as he saw someone he was familiar with. The day before yesterday, when the instructor asked everyone to practice throwing a new type of grenade, I don't know who put a real grenade. A student was discovered after pulling the fuse. He immediately hurriedly threw it at Yang Xing's feet, and an explosion occurred. Even if he did not study in vain for 4 years at Army Elementary School, Yang Xing was still quite agile. When the grenade was thrown at his feet and was about to explode, he lay down and avoided being blown up. However, the new weapon was still quite powerful. Yang Xing was knocked unconscious immediately by the explosion, with multiple wounds all over his body and bleeding. Wang Mingzhong next to him was shocked when he saw it. He immediately tore off his clothes and bandaged Yang Xing so that he did not die unjustly because of excessive bleeding. After the military doctor from the military academy came over, he treated and stopped the bleeding and then asked Wang Mingzhong and Li Jieyu to carry the injured and unconscious Yang Xing to the infirmary for observation. He probably bled too much, or was really blown up, as Luo Zizhou said. The bad guy didn't wake up until the next day. When the brothers arrived, he turned pale with shock and asked repeatedly, "Who are you?" Wang Mingzhong became happy when he heard this. He had been in Sichuan Army Primary School for several years. Why didn't he know who these brothers were? After being amused again and again, Wang Mingzhong told him that this was Li Jieyu. Who was this? Unexpectedly, Yang Xing's face became even more confused when he heard this. He held his hand repeatedly and asked, "Are you Wang Mingzhong? Is he Li Jieyu?" It made people feel uncomfortable. Afterwards, this Yang Xing seemed to be in a daze, sitting blankly without saying a word, causing the brothers to have to wait for a long time. Since then, this Yang Xing has become even more strange. He is no longer the poor and happy young man he used to be. From then on, he often held the Hanyangzhou in a daze. The rumor that Yang Xing had become stupid spread like this, and Luo Zizhou always said that Yang Xing had become stupid when he met everyone. In fact, this Yang Xing is no longer the original Yang Xing. He became a cadet at the Sichuan Army Military Academy after Dongfeng traveled to the Republic of China. Dongfeng felt depressed. He didn't expect to be killed by Little Japan like this. In his previous life, he just didn't want to be a traitor against his conscience, so he died unjustly. If you want to time travel, just go back in time. At least you have to become a young master. This way you will not be a hero. Who would have known that you would actually travel back in time to the first year of the Republic of China, when a warlord rose up and the world was in chaos? What is even more intolerable is that more than 20 years later, it will be the bloody years when Japan crazily invaded China. Hey, every time they see Wang Mingzhong, Li Jieyu, and Yang Xing in front of them, they sigh with emotion. I still learned a bit about history. The man in front of me is Wang Mingzhong, Zizhizhong, Han nationality, from Taixingchang, Xindu, Sichuan province. Before the Terswang War, he led 4,000 poorly equipped Sichuan troops to guard Ting County alone and fought fiercely with the Japanese mechanized divisions for several days. He was captured in the county seat and fought to the death. He was an anti-Japanese general who realized the survival of the city and the destruction of the city. This created a favorable foundation for the subsequent victory of Terswang. After the war, he was recognized as an army general by the nationalist government. As for Li Jieyu, his experience is no less than that of Wang Mingzhong. Zi Qixiang, a native of Baishigu, Daxingchen, Fujian, Sichuan, is a famous anti-Japanese general and national hero. After the War of Resistance against Japan, out of national indignation, he sent a call to the army to kill the enemy. He also wrote a poem. When a man leaves Sichuan with his sword, he vows not to return the Japanese pirates until they are destroyed. There is no need to bury his bones in a graveyard. The world is full of green mountains. He led his troops to participate in the famous Changji Battle and the Central Plains Battle, and was promoted to the commander-in-chief of the 36th Group Army due to his merits. In 944, in order to save the Japanese troops in the Pacific battlefield, Japan brazenly launched the Hunang Guangxi campaign. Jiang Din went in the First Theater, and Tang Enbo, a direct descendant of the Central Army, fled without fighting. General Li Jieyu volunteered and led his troops to retreat. Unfortunately, during the retreat, he was ambushed by the Japanese army and died heroically. Li Jieyu was one of the two commanders of the Chinese Army Group Army who died on the battlefield, like General Zhang Zizhong during the anti-Japanese war. Although Li Jieyu may not have as many military exploits as Zhang Zizhong in history, or his experience may not be as legendary as Zhang Zizhong's, many people in later generations will remember Zhang Zizhong as the commander of the army who died on the battlefield, while Li Jieyu eventually became a forgotten person. Forget it, who makes his life miserable. He actually traveled to this era of warlord rule and had to face the humiliation of Little Japan again. But there is another advantage. In this life, he should not be as powerless against Japan as in his previous life. At least the two classmates around him were anti-Japanese generals, and they were both promoted as generals by the nationalist government after their death. In this way, as long as you work hard and don't get killed, in the future anti-Japanese battlefield, like these two brothers, you can lead your troops to fight against the Japanese invaders and kill the hateful Japanese like Suzuki. Thinking of this, Yang Xing couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Since fate is so unfair, let's start from the beginning. Relying on the remaining memories, Dongfang recalled Yang Xing's life experience. Yang Xing, born in the 9th year of his reign, was a native of Pengzhou, Sichuan. He was clever since he was a child, but his tribe was different from him. He persuaded his parents to study the 4 books and 5 classics with the old scholar in the tribe. But who would have expected that the Qing dynasty would change at the drop of a hat? At the age of 11, it changed the imperial examination to a new study. In this way, for years of study in the 4 books and 5 classics was regarded as white study. When their young son stayed at home, dazed with a few books of the 4 books and the 5 classics, the poor parents were not cruel to interrupt little Yang Xing's studies, so they immediately decided to live on simple terms and send little Yang Xing to Pengzhou Middle School to learn new things. Unexpectedly, God would choose the situation. After only a few years of studying in the new school, his parents died of illness one after another. With his source of livelihood suddenly lost, Xiao Yangxing had no choice but to give up his studies and go home to work in the farm. You must know that during the Republic of China, many men aged 15 or 16 started families and started businesses. Although Xiao Yangxing was excellent in all subjects, it was difficult for him to achieve a career. Teacher Zhu Dingxian couldn't bear such a seedling to be decadent like this. After asking around, he found out that the new army was being trained across the country. Zhao Erfeng, the governor of Sichuan, was training the new army. There was an army primary school below. Yang Xing, who had lost his financial resources, could no longer study new subjects in Pengzhou Middle School. A dead horse would be a living doctor, and a rich man would not be a soldier. Now that little Yang Xing has nothing and is about to become a proletarian, he should go out to be a soldier. After all, being a soldier may also lead to a good future. After hearing Teacher Zhu's introduction, Xiao Yangxing thought it would be better to go out and have a collision. In these troubled times, being a soldier is still a way. He immediately bought his family's property and traveled all the way to the unfamiliar city of Chengdu to apply for Sichuan Army Primary School. Since ancient times, good men have refused to serve as soldiers. In the long history, the status of soldiers has been very low. In the Song dynasty, even the General Di Qing had to have his face carved. With several years of private school experience, new knowledge, and a naturally good body, He was immediately admitted and studied in the army primary school with Wang Mingzhang and others for 4 years. Because his family was poor and helpless, Xiao Yangxing was very peaceful in school. Unlike Wang Mingzhang, Li Jieyu, and others who attended this meeting today and that meeting tomorrow, they concentrated on studying and often excelled in major military subjects. Even so, because of his relationship with Wang Mingzhang and Li Jieyu, he still became a sworn enemy. In the past few years at Army Primary School, apart from being concerned about politics, who else is so indifferent to what is happening outside the window and only reads books by sages? Now Sichuan has declared independence and established the Han Sichuan military government with Pu Dianjuan, chairman of the Road Protection Movement, as the chief governor and Sichuan Army General Zhu Qingluan as the deputy governor. Everyone expressed their extreme helplessness towards this military government. Some students believed that this was entirely the product of compromise. In fact, it was the great people of Sichuan who were the first to oppose the rule of the Qing dynasty. Although in the previous life everyone unanimously named Wuchang the most important city in China, at this time, the students at the Sichuan Army Officer School believed that it was the Sichuan people who fired the first shot against the decadent rule of the Manchu Qing dynasty. In the late Qing dynasty, the imperial court was the first to encourage provinces to build railways to develop the New Deal. However, due to the large amount of money required to build railways, coupled with the huge benefits that imperialism would bring to railway construction, they colluded with Manchu and Qing officials and decided to nationalize the railways run by each province and then sell them exclusively to foreigners. Not only would building railways in this way not bring any economic pressure to the Manchu and Qing court, but more importantly, there would be too much gray income when the railways were exclusively sold to foreigners. Therefore, the Manchu and Qing court ignored the opposition of the provinces and the threat of the revolutionary movement, and forced the provincial government-run railways to be converted into railways. You must know that Sichuan province had invested nearly 10 million taels of silver in building railways at that time. So, under the organization of Sichuan celebrities such as Pu Dianjuan, Zhang Lan, Lua Luan, road protection branches were established in various places and launched a vigorous road protection movement. Sichuan Governor Zhao Erfeng saw that the usually gentle Sichuan people dared to openly defy the imperial court. When he was about to arrest the road protection leaders Pu Dianjuan, Zhang Lan, Lua Luan, and others and prepare to kill them, the Sichuan people were not afraid of Zhao Erfeng's power. Businessmen went on strike one after another or went to Governor Zhao Erfeng's yamen to petition. Upon seeing this, Zhao Erfeng blatantly ordered the military and police to shoot at the unarmed Sichuan people, killing more than 0 people on the spot, causing the Qingdu tragedy that shocked the whole country. Under the organization of the Tongminghui, the Sichuan people embarked on the road of armed road protection, and the situation in Sichuan province was getting out of control. Railway supervisor Duan Fong led his troops to reinforce Zhao Erfeng and at the same time asked the Manchus to impeach Zhao Erfeng so that he could take office as the governor of Sichuan. However, Duan Fong's conspiracy was detected by Zhao Erzhuan, Zhao Erfeng's brother, so he took the lead and declared a coup, ostensibly handing over power to the Sichuan Road Balu Comrade Association. Therefore, after independence, the Han military government in Sichuan became the product of a compromise between the old and new factions. Pu Dianjuan, chairman of the Sichuan Road Protection Ruling Association, became the chief governor, and Zhao Erfeng's close confidant Zhu Qingluan became the deputy governor. But then, after Feng Guizhang led his troops south to capture Hanyang, Zhao Erfeng was ready to launch a rebellion and overthrow the Han Sichuan military government. When Zhao Erfeng came so fiercely, Pu Dianjuan was so frightened that he immediately fled Chengdu. At this critical moment, Yin Changheng, Minister of Military and Political Affairs of Sichuan and General Office of the Sichuan Army Primary School, immediately went to Fenghuang Mountain to mobilize troops to the Sichuan Army Primary School to quickly put down Zhao Erfeng's rebellion, and then held a public trial. Amidst the people's cries of death, the notorious butcher Zhao ended his life like this. After that, Yin Chonghun was sworn in as the governor of the Sichuan Han military government and announced that he would reorganize the Sichuan Army Primary School into the Sichuan Army Officer School. Historically, although Sichuan Army Primary School or Sichuan Army Officer School did not produce as many generals as other military schools, they were not unknown. Sichuan Army Primary School is a military academy that gradually evolved when the new army was established across the country. In the 32nd year of Guangxu, 906, Sichuan Governor Shiliang founded the Sichuan Army Corps. The next year, the successor Sichuan Governor Zhao Erkson expanded it into the Sichuan Army Express Course to train new Sichuan officers. In order to better train officers, the Sichuan Army Primary School was established on the basis of the accelerated system. Finally, under the hands of Yin Chonghun, the Army Primary School evolved into the Sichuan Army Officer School. In the 1920s and 1930s, Sichuan warlords must have graduated from the accelerated courses, Sichuan Army Primary School and Sichuan Army Officers Academy. For example, the King of Sichuan Lu Xiang, the King of Southwest Lu Wenhui, the romantic General Yang's son, the anti-Japanese General Wang Mingzhang, Li Jieyu, Deng Shiho, He Guiguang, Wang Zanxiu, Sun Zhen, and others were all born here. In this way, although the Whampoa Military Academy is not the cradle of generals, at least there are many outstanding people among the seniors and students. Chapter 3: Disassembling the Gun. Although the Whampoa Military Academy was very famous in the previous life, it was mainly because of Chiang Kai-shek and because the main GCD generals came from the Whampoa Military Academy. As a result, everyone mythologized the Whampoa Military Academy. But everyone just needs to think about it. Although it adopts a new way of running a school, the students of Huangpu Military Academy only study for less than 10 years. How high is such a basic military foundation possible? Mainly because the main generals of the Kuomintang and the Communist Party will be born in the future. Take the major KMT generals mentioned in previous lives. During the anti-Japanese war, only Chun Chung from the Whampoa Military Academy became the commander of the theater. Compared with the main generals of the Communist Party, among the 10 marshals, only Mao Zedong, Nie Romjin, Su Xiongqian, Yi Jianying, and Luo Ronghuan have relations with them. In this way, among the Kuomintang and the Communist Party, the Whampoa Military Academy has a greater influence on the Communist Party. You must know that Yang Xing and others have participated in the Army Primary School training for 4 years, and now they have transferred to the Army Officer School to study. At least they have laid a solid military foundation and learned a variety of strategies and tactics. In this way, he no longer has to worry about becoming a traitor. Thinking of this, Yang Xing couldn't help but curl up his lips. Oh, traitor. In my previous life, I was called a traitor and a lackey. It was a great shame and humiliation. Now that I have traveled through time, I can no longer bear such an infamy. If possible, I must make every possible effort to repay the little devil who killed me. So, he straightened his back and shook the old Han Yang on his shoulder. I'm not very good at history. Although I have an impression of the overall historical development, I don't know the specific details. But no matter what, there will be no large-scale war after the war. Therefore, what we have to do now is to strengthen our military quality to save our lives in the complex warlord melee in the future. Thinking of this, Yang Xing touched the Hanyang made on his shoulder. Made in Hanyang, in the modern warlord melee, Hanyang was a sharp weapon for domestic soldiers. Made in Hanyang, China imitated the Mauser rifle, which was an essential weapon for all armies during the warlord melee. Although China later developed a medium-sized rifle, many troops were still equipped with this rifle even during the Liberation War. In this way, the Hanyang-made rifle is still a very good rifle. Since it will be used on the battlefield in the future, why not take a closer look at this gun? In my previous life, although there were countless images of guns and ammunition, the real ones only came once. That was when I was in Shenzhen. A colleague took a real pistol and showed it off in front of Dongfang. He was curious for a while, but he invited a gangster to the hotel to have fun for a long time. After that, he played with it for an hour and then touched a real gun and ammunition. Unexpectedly, nowadays, the gun is always on the shoulder and the bullet is never out of the hand. With such a good opportunity, why not take a closer look and, if possible, dissect it? Made in Hanyang is a typical rifle. Because it was made in Hanyang Arsenal, everyone calls it made in Hanyang. Hanyang mainly imitates the German Mauser 9 rifle. The caliber of the gun is 792 mmx 57. It uses Mauser 792 mm bullets. The projectile has a muzzle velocity of 650 meters per second, a scale range of 2000 m, a total length of 250 millimeters, and a 5-round fixed magazine. In the Chinese army, Hanyang-made weapons have been used for a particularly long time. Production began in 1995 and continued until 1944. For nearly 50 years, Hanyang-made weapons have been the main battle weapons of Chinese army soldiers. In modern times, although the Hanyang-made rifle is easy to use, it is a single-shot rifle. Although it has a loading capacity of 5 rounds, after firing a shot, you have to pull the bolt, reload, and aim to shoot, which is very complicated to use. Another problem is that the total length of the Hanyang gun is 250 millimeters. If a bayonet is added, the whole gun will be longer. For yellow people who are not as tall as the Germans, holding it in their hands is like holding a spear, which is very inconvenient. Although it is inconvenient, after all, this was a commonly used firearm by the Chinese army during the Republic of China, so we should study it carefully no matter what. So during the break, I sneaked to the edge of the playground, unloaded the Hanyang made, and looked at it carefully. Although it is very different from the weapons of later generations, and although it is relatively large, the overall workmanship quality of Hanyang is still relatively complete. After studying for a long time, the working principle and